Hey guys, it's Camus, and another edition of Chess Beauty. This is an epic struggle in the form of an endgame study by Korolkov from 1951. And I really like this endgame quite a bit. It's got a lot of interesting play and some surprising resources for both sides. And so take a look. It's white to play and win. If you haven't seen it before, give it a shot, see if you can work it out. Okay, so you probably didn't take too long to find out that the best try for white is king to f7. Excuse me, pawn to f7. And you probably rejected bishop to b2 because after, say, rook takes f6, bishop takes f6, check, there's no win. It's just a draw. White cannot force checkmate with this combination of material. So back to the start position. f7 is the only rational choice here. f7, and now how does black stop this pawn? It's threatening the queen immediately, and the obvious looking rook to f6 unfortunately fails miserably to bishop to b2. And now what can black do here? He can't move his king to g7 to protect the rook and stop the pawn because of this miserable knight on f5. So if he tries to take the bishop on, excuse me, the knight on f5, then after bishop takes f6 check, king to h7 only move the pawn queens. And say he tries to sacrifice, after bishop to b2, say he tries to sacrifice the rook, it doesn't work out either. King to h7, bishop to h takes f6 again, king to g6, but the pawn queens. So after f7, the only chance for black to stop this pawn is to check the white king, and this he does. Rook to a6. Now, what would you do in this position? Where would you move? Okay, there's only one way to win, and that way is not by king to b2. King to b2 runs into rook to f6. Now the pawn is threatened, so knight to d6. But then bishop to e6, double attacking. And now white can threaten a skewer, bishop to d2. But after rook to f3, there's no skewer. And white has nothing better than to queen. But then the king takes, the rook takes next move. Okay, so that doesn't work out. After bishop to b2, bishop to d2, rook to f3, instead of queening, you can try bishop to c3 check, but after king to h7, king to c2, he's got really nothing better. Bishop takes f7, and that's a draw. Okay, so after rook to a6, that was king to b2, and that doesn't work out. How about king to b1? Well, this fails quite quickly to bishop takes f5 check. And then after the king moves, simply rook to a8, and the pawn is stopped. Okay, that leaves our only other legal move after rook to a6 check is bishop to a3, and amazingly this turns out to be the winning move. So black, of course, will snap this piece off, and now we have a couple of moves for white in this position. Again, only one of them is correct, and that correct move is not king to b1, because again, bishop takes f5, king to b2, rook to a8, and the pawn is stopped. So after rook to a3 check, king to b2 is the only hope. And now, it's one of those surprising resources. How does black stop the pawn? Well, the only way he has to do it is rook to a2 check. The point being that if king takes a2, then bishop takes e6, bishop to e6 check, and the pawn falls. So after rook to a2 check, he can try maybe king to b3, but again, bishop to e6, and we have the same problems before. Okay, how about king to c3? Then we have rook to c2 check. And of course, if he takes the pawn, then the bishop checks, king to c3, king to g7, and the pawn is stopped. So how about after rook to c2 check, king to d4, then rook to d2, king to e5, rook to d8, and the pawn is stopped. How about king after after rook to c check? How about king to b4? Also not good, because rook to b2 check, king to c5, rook to c2 check, king to b6, rook to b2 check, king to c7, rook to b7 check, king to c8, and the pawn is stopped. Amazingly, so after rook to a2 check, it turns out that the only move to win is the surprising king to c1, moving back. There you go. So naturally, black continues his policy of checking. Rook to a1, king to d2, rook to a2 check, king to e3, rook to a3, king to f4, rook to a4, king to g5, and now rook to g4, another interesting try, because the point being, if king takes g4, bishop takes f5 check, king takes f5, king to g7, and the pawn is stopped. So after rook to g4, white has king to h6. And now that pawn really is threatening to queen, and black has no more checks. He can't play rook to h4 because the knight's protecting that square. And black king can't move in to stop the pawn, so black is toast in this position. So after king to h6, he has this interesting try. Rook to g8. Looks bizarre. The point being that if we take the rook, king takes, and it's just a straight draw. So after rook to g8, white needs to play knight to e7. And now black still hanging on there with bishop to e6 is a clever move, because if we play rook to f8 instead, after knight to e7, play rook to f8, knight to g6 is checkmate, somewhat surprisingly. So after knight to e7, bishop to e6 is his only chance. And now, naturally, taking the rook leads nowhere. Excuse me, in this position it does lead somewhere. I'm getting my variations mixed up. Yes, he takes the rook at this point. Bishop takes, and knight g6 is checkmate. So a wonderful study. Virtually every move had a surprising element to it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. Let's look ahead to our next one. Now this one, yes, we'll save that, of course. This one is, well, it's white to play and win. And I don't expect anybody to actually solve this, because basically it's a checkmate in 59 moves. But it's very interesting from a theoretical point of view. And if you know anything about Troitsky and knight endgames, this will give you a strong clue as to how to solve this. Otherwise, I think you'll be like me and be completely clueless as to how to win from this position. Anyway, take a stab at it, and we'll see you on the next Chess Beauty. Thank you for watching.